Hello, Professor. My name is Rosario, and in this video, I will demonstrate my social post web application. This project was built using Next.js with TypeScript on the front end, and a Node.js and Express API with SQLite on the backend. This web application allows users to create new posts, assign a category to each post, view all posts in real time, filter posts by category, and like posts dynamically. This is my home page, which displays all the items stored in the database. On the main page, users can enter an author name, write a post content, choose a category, and click Create Post. Once the post is created, it immediately appears in the list below without refreshing the page. These posts are loaded using a server component that fetches data from my API running on port 4000. Each post displays the post ID, an author, the content, the date and time, the category, and the number of likes. Users can also press the like button, which sends a request to the backend and updates the content instantly. Now I will demonstrate the form validation's errors. If I try to submit the form without filling in the required files, the app shows this kind of validation message. Author is required, content is required, and category is required. Then I will show two extra validations. For example, the author must be at least 2 characters. If I enter just 1 character, and in the content, I will enter a word that has less than 10 characters. So as you can see, I will get these errors. Author must be at least 2 characters and content must be at least 10 characters. So in total, my form checks at least 5 validation rules. Now I will correctly fill in the form. So I will enter my name, the content, and I will select the category family. And then I will create the post. The form sends a post request to my API, which saves the new item into the SQLite database. As you can see, the post appears immediately in the list below without refreshing the page. And when I click the like button, it sends a put request to the API, and then the number of likes increase for that post. For example, if I click like, the updated value appears immediately on the screen. Now I will briefly show the client component code. This is my client component called post_like_client. At the top you can see use client. It receives 2 props, ID and initial likes. Inside the component, I use state to store the current number of likes and the loading state. When I click the like button, the handle like click function calls my API function like post ID. That updates the post on the backend, and then I update the likes state so that UI changes without reloading the page. Now I will go to the filter post page. I have to click here in this option, filter posts. This page allows filtering posts by all, general, school, and family. When I click on a filter, the page sends a request to the API using a query parameter, and only the matching posts are returned. For example, here, if I click in the general, I will see just the general category. This page uses a dynamic route and reuses the same server component to display filtered results. I used TypeScript in several important parts of this application. For example, in this file, posts, here I use TypeScript to define an interface called post. It describes the structure of a post. ID is a number, author is a string, content is a string, category can only be general, school, or family. Created at is a string, and like is a number. This helps me because if I try to use a post without one of these fields or with the wrong type, TypeScript will show an error in the editor. Also in this file API, I use TypeScript for my API functions. For example, the like post function receives an ID with type number and returns a promise. And also in the create post function, expects an object with author, content, and category, all of them strings. If I try to call these functions with the wrong types, TypeScript warns me before running the code. This makes the code safer and easier to maintain. I also use TypeScript in the post.lights client file. Here, I use TypeScript to define the props of my client component. Post.lights client props says that the component must receive an ID as a number and initialize as a number. If I try to use this component and pass a string instead of a number, TypeScript will mark it as an error. This is useful because it prevents me too many bugs when working with components and props. Thank you for watching my presentation.